He has given me a warning dream about tectonic plates shifting that he wants me to share. But first, let's look at some recent oddities with our moon. Welcome back to the Final Days channel. Boy, it feels good to be back. Today is February 6th, 2021. Please feel free to share or reuse any parts of any of my videos. Let's get the truth out there. I know it's been quite a while since I've published a video, but I only put these out when the Holy Spirit tells me to. He has given me a warning dream about tectonic plates shifting that he wants me to share. But first, let's look at some recent oddities with our moon. In many of these Federal Aviation weather images, our moon appears as a tiny dot in the sky, such as this footage taken from the weather camera located in Bathurst, New Brunswick in Canada. All of these images were obtained yesterday from the FAA weather cameras in the US and Canada. We know that this tiny light is either the moon or the projector that displays our moon, because the dot we see in these images does coincide with the moonrise chart from timeanddate.com. Timeanddate.com describes the moon rising and traversing the sky at the exact same time as the date and time stamps on each of these images. Additionally, this chart shows the moon traveling west-southwest, which is the direction it's traveling in these FAA pictures. The south-facing camera in Wasilla, Alaska, shows us the same tiny dot moon phenomenon. Only in the first two frames, the moon actually appears normal size before it suddenly shrinks down to a small dot within 10 minutes. Now, common sense should tell us that the moon cannot go from this to this in just 10 minutes. In just a minute, we will see what looks like a projector or a projected moon image in the sky. It's very strange, and it does coincide with the moonrise time charts. The south-facing weather camera in Thompson Pass, Alaska, shows us the same large moon passing through the sky, which suddenly becomes a tiny dot. The dot becomes infinitesimally small as it approaches the horizon and finally disappears into nothingness. Now, please, this is not possible. This is not normal. Our moon never did this years ago. These are further signs that we are living in the very last days. Some of you might recall these images of the moon from the Moon Pass, Alaska camera last February 2020. The moon starts out large and bright. Then in the third frame, it turns into a wagon wheel before it then shrinks down to a tiny dot that eventually disappears into nothingness, into the morning sky. In addition to the moon turning into a wagon wheel, there is something else very startling about this footage. Let's take a look at the first two frames again. This looks like a full moon, doesn't it? Even though the moon appears to be a full moon in this footage, believe it or not, the real moon is only 40% of the actual size of the moon. This moon should be a crescent, 40%. So once again, if we go to timeanddate.com and look at the moon chart for February 16th of 2020, last year when these images were taken, you'll see this is the date that's time-stamped on each image. The moon is only supposed to be at 41% fullness. Here is my artist's rendition of what the moon should be looking like, and not this. These images are quite different from one another. In the Holy Bible, Jesus describes the last days in time as the date and time stamps on each of these images.
In the Holy Bible, the real prophets, not Mr. J, the real prophets describe the last days.
Of course, it would be absolutely ludicrous to think that we could actually see something like this behind our real sun 93 million miles away. Ignorant of the very late hour in which we are living, and so that we can be spiritually prepared for what lies ahead, and so we can help others become spiritually prepared also. Before we look at images taken from Colorado, it's important for viewers to know that objects behind the manufactured light we are seeing are illuminated as the light passes over them. Some of you may have seen this footage last year from Attawapiskat, Ontario, in Canada. The sun appears to rise normally on the left side of the screen, and after a few frames into the video, the sun suddenly shrinks down to 1/5 its size. Now, what's happening here is the real sun is going behind a mammoth structure in space, and the artificial light is passing in front of this enormous structure. The sky and landscape suddenly darken because the manufactured light is no match for the real sun. As you can see, the manufactured light passes over this highly textured, gigantic object and lights it up. Of course, it would be absolutely ludicrous to think that we could actually see something like this behind our real sun 93 million miles away. No, that's impossible. Thus, the manufactured light is much, much closer to Earth than our sun. And I just wanted you to see this footage again because it does light up what's behind it, and it's going to be important to realize that while we're looking at the next pictures from Colorado. And according to the timestamps on these images, the real sun is eclipsed for over 4 hours. Here are some close-up images of this same structure. I don't know what this is, but it can't be terribly far away because it's not visible from the FAA cameras in Colorado and also from many other FAA cameras around. So it's really only viewable from the cameras that are close to this area. Notice that the structure doesn't move over the course of 4 hours. It seems to remain completely stationary. However, nowadays it's very rare to see this structure because the skies in this area are always under heavy cloud cover. I don't have names or labels for these things, but I can tell you that these are definitely signs that we are living in the very last days. These are signs that Jesus commanded us to watch for.
These are signs that all the real prophets command us to watch for. We avoid all paganness. We deal with the Creator only and nobody else. The Creator has no name for you to pronounce because you cannot pronounce it. So don't even try. Or you sit up there and you blaspheme His name daily, or the Creator's name daily, like the Creator say you'll be doing. Now, what is this? What is this? That is some type of something. Could be a planet. And why does it seem to be attached all the way to this? I want y'all to pay attention to that, right? And what is this? This is not normal. And all the dates are totally off. And we know there's no such thing as time. They put that in there. They go by time. See? We don't go by that. We don't ever really die. Maybe. Some of them anyway. Oh boy.
so that we would know the season of his removal and rescue of his true followers who are living in holiness, before his wrath is unleashed upon the world of sin and abominations. I'll explain that further in a few minutes.
I'll explain it right now. The Creator's going to allow an army to come. And many of you are looking for Mr. the J to come. And the sad thing that you don't realize is that Mr. J is indeed a devil. He's coming with an army. He has a body. He is evil. All right? And what he's going to be looking to do, you already know. I've been telling y'all for a long time. Him and O'Dracos and all his buddies and Palladians and all those other freaking things. There's so many of them. I'll be going for at least hours if I even start talking about it. Y'all already know. All right? It's been exposed, all the names in that Bible, including the first off, they're wrong. The names they are giving you that actually are right are devil's names. Even the titles are devil's names. So don't even bother to do that. But don't claim to be a high priest because the devil was the first high priest. I did a lesson on that with hardcore evidence a little while back on my other channel. You can go check it out. Alright? And the Creator already helped me prove, showed me so I could prove, if I side that with the scriptures, that the Creator is the one that you can't pronounce the name. It is unfathomable. It's unfathomable. In other words, it's unimaginable. There's no way for you to pronounce it. Nobody can pronounce it. No, the fallen ones can't. The good guys can't. You can't. Nobody can. Period. And nobody has ever seen a Creator. Okay? And it's funny. If the good guys are supposed to be where the Creator is, and the bad guys was at one point where the Creator supposedly was, how come they haven't seen a Creator? But the scriptures say that no one has ever seen a Creator. So therefore, somebody saying they the Creator and they have a fleshy body, such as Mr. J and all those names, ain't nothing but a devil. And they over there helping you, and they are themselves blaspheming the Creator's name daily.
Object behind our real sun, 93 million miles away. Here are some of the images with contrast added so that the celestial object shows up better. Not everyone has good contrast on their screen, so some of these images are a little difficult to see without contrast added. And as I've mentioned in the past, I only add contrast where needed and not to the entire image. Often, if contrast...
Before I forget, those things are coming from Vince, because of course, you know, we killed them, right? We did. The Creator helped us do it. So now what you think? This is World War III about to happen. I'm talking about, matter of fact, let's just put it this way. This is War of the Worlds about to happen. Real talk.
Is applied to the entire image, it doesn't even work. As the manufactured light source passes in front of the celestial object, it illuminates it. Because it illuminates what's in front of the manufactured light as well as what's behind it. Just as we saw a few minutes ago with that large textured structure in the sky. The manufactured light tracks with the sun so that when our real sun is eclipsed by objects in our sky, the eclipse is completely hidden from public view. When the real sun is being eclipsed, the manufactured light is so small that it becomes completely hidden behind a tiny street light. This street light could never completely cover the real sun. That would be unimaginable to even think that it could. Nor could our real sun ever become completely hidden behind a thin flagpole or a thin bird feeder post. Our real sun could never be hidden behind a small street lamp, a flagpole, or a thin bird feeder post. Images such as these are only possible when the real sun is being eclipsed by something in the sky. Here is that same object viewed from the east-facing camera in Wolf Creek Pass, Colorado, just miles from the camera we just viewed pictures from in La Veta Pass, Colorado. From this angle, we don't see the reflection of the bell-shaped projector.
So we're going to help everybody real quick. Really quick. I'm going to read something to you. In fact, let's see if I can go like this. Let you see it. Oh, this is perfect as I read it. Come on, Crater. Don't fail me now. I know you got my back. You see they trying to stop it. They always want to knock it. If I go like this, y'all. Alright, I'm going to read it. Crater got me covered. Ready? Let's get it. And I praise the unnamed one and the only one who dwells in the heavens, whose name is unfathomable, cannot even be pronounced. Okay? You can't even think of the name. If I might pronounce it, it can't even be thought. That's why I just say Creator. Don't worry, Creator's in you. Creator knows everything you need and want, and what the Creator wants you to have. Okay, let's keep going. For all flesh, ain't the fallen one's flesh, ain't the good guy's flesh. There's some type of flesh, apparently. There's another dimension. And for all flesh, it is unfathomable. What? For all flesh. So it means nobody can say it. No dimension, no matter where they at, they can't say it. Who has bestowed such a glory from heaven to heaven, who makes great the glory of the good guys, and there's some bad guys now, and makes greater the glory of, they say him, who sat on the throne. Okay, who sits on the throne? The Creator only sits on the throne. Of course, you can't use a he or she because the Creator is a spirit, but of course they're going to do that. And why is that? Why is that? Well, I tell you what, if you pause the video right here and read that, you understand why is all this at the bottom saying what I'm telling you. Okay? You can stop from the highlighted where it says, and he brought me up to the fifth heaven. Why don't y'all read that whole thing right now? And you see why I read the Creator wanted me, obviously, for you to read this to y'all so y'all can see it. So y'all can stop blaspheming the names. Hello, y'all. Stop playing. Time running out. At least y'all Gentiles and heathens go by that. We don't. Outside nations go by that. We don't. We don't do time. Time running out. Tick-tock goes the clock.
We know that this celestial object cannot possibly be a lens flare of the sun. A lens flare of the sun must look something like the sun, and this is a highly textured object. This dream again now, today. But he has asked me to share this dream again now, today.
Chew the meat, spit out the bones. You know she might say Mr. J. We know Mr. J's the devil, so you got to, ignore that and just understand the Creator, not that damn devil. She gonna say Mr. J. Y'all, you can see it coming.
It's important to
That's
share
where
it
she's
again
messing up.
at this time. In this dream, I found myself looking at the entire world as if it were a map laid out in front of me. My eyes were made to focus upon the continent of Australia, and it was covered with colored dots over much of the land and including the surrounding water near the coastlines. I was told in the dream that each dot represented an earthquake, of which there were many, some of them very large. And I didn't try to duplicate those dots on this image here because I was afraid that I would not be able to put them in the correct places, and it could alarm somebody, and someone might think that an earthquake was coming in their state or their territory, which maybe wasn't the case. So I can't remember where all of them were. I just remember there was lots of earthquakes all over Australia. And then after that, the next thing that occurred was that my eyes were made to focus upon the western United States and the Pacific Ocean. On this map, I saw a label in the water off the northwestern coast that said Cascadia, and it had a 9 next to it, indicating the magnitude of an earthquake. In this dream, I was told that the only reason a magnitude 9 was showing was because the equipment couldn't display a higher number. Then, in slow motion, I saw several tidal waves radiating out from the Cascadia label on the map, heading toward California and parts of Alaska, as well as the western coast of Mexico. I could see these tidal waves actually moving on the map as they traveled eastward toward the coastlines. The first wave was the largest, and each wave after that was proportionately smaller. I don't recall exactly how many waves there were, but it seemed like there were at least 5, each wave being smaller than the wave before it. What could possibly cause tectonic plate disturbances on our planet? Untold trillions have been spent on the technology to hide this planetary system. Why all the secrecy? The enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are.
Oh, boy. I told y'all she was going to do that. See, Mr. C, Mr. J is still the devil. So the devil, Mr. J, Mr. C, and all his buddies and minions and whatever, and don't want you to know when they gonna strike. Gotta get that Mr. J out of folks' mouth.